Hi, my name is Sophie and I'm the Autistic Autist. Today I want to talk about how much I learned in that 1 year of med school that passed, how it was for me being autistic, and things or tips for other autistic med students. I'm sorry I might sound a bit different while filming. I kind of film in those days. I started to get allergic to something that is around here, and I can't figure out what it is. I stuffed myself full with antihistaminic stuff and other preventative methods. I cleaned my face like 100 times, and nothing is really working right now, and I'm scared of tonight and falling asleep. Because most of the time I then can't breathe through my nose, and that's very, very horrible for me. And I can't really fall asleep then, and I really suffer a lot during those times, but sometimes I can't stop it and I have to go through it. Yes, I have tried desensitization, but I don't really know what's the reason why I'm allergic right now, and yeah. That's that, and I might sound different, I'm sorry. So let's start with one thing that was different this year, and that's, of course, endemic. I'm trying to word it the way I don't get problems here. You know, there is something very important that happened this year, and that was the cause why everything was very distant, and I haven't been much at university itself. Why is this so very important? It's very important because not having to deal with planning outside, thinking of what could happen, having like every security thing and dragging it around, being around people a lot and having to interact with people in order to not seem weird, having to mask and everything. And that falls away if you're just home and you don't really meet someone, and you can turn off your camera if you feel uncomfortable. So that's something this year that really helped me, and that was actually pretty positive for me. Although it was not the best thing for every other person that was more social and that had problems without that social interactions, while I have problems with that social interaction. But there do come some cons for me too, so there are things like everything changes, and changes quite fast. While on the other hand, you don't get information and you can't pre-plan, and things will get normal again, and that's going to be another change and one to more social interaction. And that's something I'm kind of scared or very aware of, and it's constantly in my mind that I need to prepare for that. While I also don't know, because nobody knows when it will happen, how long it will happen, and everything else. But let's move on to medical stuff. We have 3 blocks, are they called, per semester. Every block has its own topic and its own ways of teaching, its own professors and everything. Per block we have seminars, we have practical stuff and learn practical things. Sometimes we didn't have them or had them on computer instead of real life, so that was not the easiest thing. And then we have lectures, and those lectures are every day from Monday to Friday, from 8:15, around 8:15 to 12 o'clock. Then we have that 1 hour break, and then sometimes somewhere in the afternoon, noon, we will have a seminar or practical stuff. There's 1 day a week at least where we have nothing the rest of the day, where we can relax and prepare for tests and everything. But most of the time there isn't something on every other day, so there are like 3 days or only 2 days. Sometimes there are 4, and sometimes there's even just 1 thing a week. That really depends. The thing is, though, which isn't the most comfortable thing for being autistic, that you don't really have the same thing happening every week. You don't have the same thing happening every block, of course, but you also have different things happening every week. Like most of the seminars only happen once, and they happen, for example, on Wednesday, the first week, or something like that. But at least I can prepare because I have the whole plan for the next semester on my phone on a specific app that is called Studo. With every block we have a different topic. The first block was basically science and repeating things from the Medate, so the big test that sorts out between people that can make it through and that can study medicine and a whole bunch of other people that didn't make it. And you just repeat the things and have like a small test about the science stuff, and then you go on to the next block. The next block was anatomy, physiology, and histology. So it was how is our body built, mainly focusing on bones and ligaments and the organs in the stomach, not so much on blood vessels and muscles, because there are a ton, and it was a ton to learn. And for the first big test that we had at the end, it's an oral test, it was enough to learn, because you had 30 questions for anatomy, 30 for physiology, and 30 for histology that could come. So you needed to study for every question. You got those questions before, so you could study them. But of course, and that's something I, as an autist, am very aware of, those answers that you give might be enough for one professor and not at all helpful for another professor. Like, there are some professors who want the wording to be very exact, and that's danger zone for me, because I word things differently, because my brain works differently. So that's something I'm always scared of, and why I mask so much, and why I try to analyze the professor and how he reacts and everything before I even go to him and get questions, so I know how I probably need to word the questions, and that's very exhausting. So that was the next block, with an oral exam at the end. Then comes the third block of the one semester, and that block, thankfully, I didn't need to make, because I was studying biology before, and I already knew all the stuff. It was microbiology, it was a little bit of histology, and biochemistry, and I knew all of those things, and I could prove that, so I didn't have to make this block. At the end of the semester, we had something called SIP, which in German means Summative Integrative Prüfung. It's basically a multiple choice test where you have to answer questions about the whole semester, about every block. And that's only like this in the first year. In the second year, you only have one of those tests at the end of the year, but still to every block that happens. So 3 more blocks, basically. Instead of 3, you have 6 blocks. And at the end of the year, it's kind of like in Hogwarts, like where you had those end of the year exams. It's kind of what happens in the next year, year after, and I think in the 4th year you only have one of those tests with 3 blocks anymore, and then you concentrate on something different. There are different ways of exams. I'm not that focused on those things here. I'm planning far in the future, but at the moment I have so many things going on, so I'm not 100% sure. Let's talk about the first year where I actually know what happens. So we're at the end of the semester, and I just took the time that I didn't have to go to lectures and everything to study as much as I can for the SIP test, and I was lucky to start studying very early, so I had it pretty easy at that first exam. Then the next semester begins. Actually, only 1 week after the test, or even 3 days, I think. There was just a weekend left, I guess. Something around that, but pretty close after the huge test. The next semester starts, and it has a also seminars, practical stuff, and the lectures, but this time seminars equal oral exams. So you really need to be prepared for those seminars. Every seminar has a different kind of topic that it's lectured throughout the semester. One has lungs and breathing and everything. Another one was based on the urinary tract system and everything that happens there, even at the cell level, and tinier proteins and how they exchange stuff like electrolytes and how important that is for your body and having the equilibrium that you need and everything. So that was a pretty rough time, and I basically only studied and did other uni stuff at that time, so I was pretty focused. After that, the block was basically over, so it was seminars once, twice, or even 3 times once a week, where you were basically studying for those and trying to prepare for studying for the other ones and everything. You can develop, and I think you really need that for university and med school, you need to develop a way where you can learn fast and get the information into you and learn effective. I thankfully have those by me pre-planning so much and by me really playing with me and playing with things that really help me, and by having made the MEDAT, the huge test that you need to study so much for, I kind of developed things and how I can study, which was very helpful. Otherwise, you will probably fail a few and have to repeat them at a kind of buffer that is at the end of the block, where others don't have anything and you will have to repeat most of the exams, oral exams, in a pretty short way and with a different professor and one that is very strict. Then moving on to the next block, that was genetic. And again, I didn't need to make that block because of my school and university, because genetics was a huge part and I basically made all those stuff before. So that was perfect because I pre-recorded stuff for you guys in that time and started to study for the next SIP that was at the end of the second semester. Those were only 3 weeks, so pretty fast. And then came the last block that was kind of a bunch of things thrown together. Risk factors, what you can do to prevent stuff, what is preventative testing, vaccines, and everything was kind of repeated and explained. And with that virus thing being a thing, it was pretty helpful. You had kind of real life really helping you see what happens and helping you study basically, or you knew what was going on now in a better way because you just get to study it right now. But it was also a bit confusing and so much going on, and it was not the most comfortable block for me, but I made it. I just took my time and studied most things on my own in an order that was acceptable for me. Yeah, that was it. And then came the SIP that I started studying in the second block of the semester and ended after 3 weeks where I didn't have uni anymore, where I just studied for 2 tests. One was Latin and Greek and everything that words could be in medicine, that could be used in medicine. And then a week after that I had the SIP. And after the SIP there's nothing, and the tests will need 4 weeks to give you an answer. So you kind of blind the first month and then you will finally start to get answers on if you made it or not. Thankfully I made it and I'm done with the first chapter of med uni. There are 3 chapters in uni, med school, however you want to call it for me. The first chapter is the first year, then you have 3 years for the next chapter and 2 years for the last chapter. So I made the first chapter, but I only made 1 year, of course. Let's talk about tests. Those tests were multiple choice, and that's kind of hard for me because to me, most of the things that I read in those tests are like, yeah, well, in a way that's true. You need to just interpret it the right way. And I needed to really work on studying how professors ask questions, what they want from you, and how to correctly interpret things. And thankfully, you had questions from the years before, so I kind of used them to get into things and how the professors are asking for stuff and want things to be answered. If you're autistic, I really recommend working with questions that were asked in the years before to get a use of how this professor is. We mostly can analyze people pretty easily, but we need things where we can analyze them through. So these things are pretty helpful for us. And yeah, that was the first year of med school. I am currently in a big break. I'm working on stuff, preparing stuff that I will talk on in later videos. And yeah, that was it for this video. If you have any questions about med school that you still have, or you need help with how you should do things in your med school or in your uni, whatever you're doing, I don't want to say I can't help other people that are not studying medicine. I will always try to help you, and a community that I hope to build will hopefully help each other too. And that's something I'm kind of scary. But let's move on to medical stuff. The first year has... But let's move on to medical stuff. And that blog, thankfully, I didn't need to make because I was studying because yeah, I'm planning far in the future, but I'm at an yeah, that's it. Bye!